Welcome back to Survived by Loss, a podcast providing a voice in the dark where we hear stories about erasing the gray and ending cycles. I'm Haley, and I will be your host. If you made it through the trailer, you'll know from now on this podcast will be one giant trigger warning. Before we dive into today's episode, I would like to say the following content may contain sensitive topics or discussions that could potentially evoke strong emotional responses or discomfort. I encourage you to prioritize your mental health and proceed with caution. If you find yourself feeling distressed at any time, please remember that it's okay to pause or stop listening. Your well-being is incredibly important to me. Remember, you're not alone and support is available. We will talk about loss and every single kind. You will hear my personal stories as well as people that I know and love, and hopefully, one day, this will inspire you to talk about something you have lost with all of us. My goal for this is to be a safe space to share, a place to let go, to find people to add to your list so you know you're not alone in your time of healing. This episode, this episode is something else. I went back to record the intro because that is what I do every episode. It just works out better. I never know what I'm going to say until I get through and edit the rest of it. And I will say, I was laughing so hard. I almost cried. And I also almost cried because listening to the conversation that my mom and I got to have in this episode brought me back to so many times in our past when we would be so down, so sad, in survival mode, working through some difficult situations in our home life. And we found our escape in each other and would just laugh and joke and sit in each other's room. We would just find peace. And those are some of my most fond memories ever in life. This episode is my mom doing a quick little summary of life before me. So, talking a little bit about when my mom and dad met, the ages, and what came up until my sweet, angelic little self. Towards the end, I will give you a little warning. We go a little off the rails, okay? We get a little crazy, we have a little fun. But it's important because my last episode, I was determined it was going to end on a positive note, and I ended it crying. We're going to switch that up a little. This is part 1 of 5 million that we could probably make about my dad and my childhood and our life. It's funny, and it made me smile, and you get to hear a very, very PG version of mine and my mom's relationship and why I will yell it from the top of the rooftops every time that I have the best mom in the entire world. Because without her, wouldn't have made it this far. She's perfect, and I'm thankful. I hope you enjoy this very genuine and authentic episode, and I hope it brings a smile to your face, even if it's for just a second, because it really did bring the biggest smile to mine.
Hi, it's me, Angie, back again. Haley's mom. She wants a little more intel on our history because she wasn't part of our history yet. So here I am to talk to you today and have everyone listen to, our story, kind of from the really beginning. Actually, so far in the beginning, I was 15. That's when this started. And I'm way past 15 now.
You're only 30. Hello.
Too. I wish. I was 15 years old and going to a magnet school before magnet schools. So I guess we were trendsetters possibly back in the late 80s. That ages me. So I was taking drafting. And I went to that school because my siblings went to a high school, just your average high school. So basic, actually. Haha, no pun intended. And I didn't want to go to that school. I wanted to do something more. And I felt like if I went to the magnet school, I could. So I went to that school. It was in a different city, which sounds far, but it was about a 25-minute drive to get to it, which isn't bad, I guess. Anyway, so while I was there, I started there my sophomore year, and I ended up being friends with Jamie, my friend Jamie, and her and I were having a lot of fun. And she said, "Hey, you should come by my trigonometry class because there's this guy in there and he's super cute and I want you to see him." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So I go by and I was like, "Oh, shoot. He is cute." Oh, my friend likes him and he's really cute. This isn't going to be good. But she also happened to like another guy who happened to have the same car, different color. They were about the same build. It was weird. He may not have had the same car now. Too many years have gone by, but very similar. Anyway, so yeah, I was just immature and said, "I'm going to throw it out there and maybe see what happens." I'm like, "I know. You like that guy. I'll like Robert. We're best friends. This will be awesome." So over time, we hung out a little bit. We went to the mountains one day, Jamie, myself, another guy. His name was Robert, which is funny. And I guess your dad, we'll call him Sly for right this second, your dad Sly went up the mountain with the intention that he and Jamie were going to maybe have some fun at some point in the future. But I guess by the time we were on our way back down the mountain from hanging out, that was no longer the case. So within a short period of time, we ended up talking on the phone for hours and hours and hours all the time. And what's funny is I thought he was Hispanic because he was tall and dark haired. It's going to be tough. Ooh, way tough. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, he always wore flannels, which is funny because he would wear flannels up until the end. So I was like, he must be Hispanic. I never met anyone Japanese before that I knew of, you know? I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. And he told me he was Japanese. And then I was like, even more fascinated because here's a 6'2" guy that's, you know, Japanese and beautiful. He was mixed, actually, half and half, half American, half Japanese. And he was just beautiful. And we hung out quite a bit as much as possible. My mom was pretty protective. And after some long conversations, I realized that maybe his mom was not so lovey dovey to him. Like maybe not a lot of empathy, or I don't know, just not a lot of nurturing. That's the word I'm looking for, nurturing. And somehow I knew at 15, which is insane, that I knew I could love him far more than his mom ever would. Fast forwarding to the end, I know I accomplished that, and more than that, I conquered it, and it was a non issue as far as my ability to love him. So we dated for many years. Not many. We were young. It felt like lifetimes. I was 15 when we met. My senior year, we actually broke up and he went his separate way. I went mine, and we stayed in touch. He actually moved to Arizona and lived with a girl in Tempe, which he would choke me now for saying that because he didn't like anybody to share his business. And yeah, there's so much drama in between there, which is crazy. We were young, right? So he moved back from Tempe and moved in with this girl. I mean, they moved back together. And then was the time of pagers. I had a pager, but we stayed in touch during that whole time, that my senior year. So anyway, he paged me and I called him, and I was standing at a payphone, so that dates me too, on Jones in Las Vegas. And he told me that his dad, your grandpa, committed suicide. And I said, "Okay, where's Stephanie?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, when is she coming back?" And he goes, "I don't know." I said, "Well, I'm coming over. Give me your address." So I jumped in my car and went over. And within a very, very short amount of time, his brother, your uncle, Mark, and I went and moved him out and moved him into the apartments where Mark was living. Those apartments happened to be across the street from where your grandpa, Melvin, took his life in the car. So, your dad and I started dating again.
What age was this?
I was in high school. I was just a senior at that moment. Mark and I went and moved your dad out of that apartment. Interesting little side note. On the way back to Mark's apartment after loading up your dad's stuff, I actually got a bloody nose and it wouldn't stop. And Mark took off his shirt and gave it to me because there was no tissues or anything. It was down my shirt, everything. Crazy, right? So I wasn't, I was, okay, yeah. So by this time, I'm probably 17 ish, 17 and a half. Anyway, so shortly thereafter, your dad and I were talking all the time again, dating. We started hanging out. Things got a little wild at my house because your grandma said, "You need to make a decision. You're either going to live here or you're not." Because I wasn't home much between working and being with your dad, right? And I said, "Okay, I'm out." So your dad and I got a place and we moved in literally the hood to where we lived in this 2-story little apartment place in Northtown, if you will, where we could stand and look out the window and watch drug deals go down across the street. So I was 19 at this point, working a lot. Your dad worked. I was about 19 and a half. And I decided that your dad and I decided that I would do piecework construction with him and Mark, your uncle. And so I was 20 by this point. So we would go to the construction job sites of new apartments, and your dad and Mark would put in all the base case doors, all that type of stuff. And then I would go in and do the finish hardware, which is the doorknobs and peepholes in the doors and deadbolts and towel bars. And anyway, it was quite an experience. So every day on the way to work, we would go to Jack in the Box, and I would get a jumbo jack with cheese because, yeah, that's probably why I don't like Jack in the Box now. I know, shocking. This is exactly why. This is funny. This is a realization on a podcast, right? Okay, so all of a sudden, I'm like, ooh, these, man, this Jack in the Box make me sick. Next day, I feel sick. I feel sick. Well, that meant something was more than the Jack in the Box that was making me a little bit sick. So, yep, I was pregnant with your brother. Jack in the Box quickly ended. Winchell's raspberry filled donuts came up really quick, and Subway sandwiches came up really quick. The seafood and crab with olives and cheese, best sandwich ever when I was pregnant. Anyway, we still lived in the hood. And as my belly was growing, your dad and I were working through a lot as far as just young love. You know, he had lived with someone before, but I didn't. So, looking back now, and please understand anything that I say now, I'm not bashing him by any means because, it takes two to tango. I just, now that I have some years under my belt and some life experiences, I realized there were some things. Some things happened there. One, while I was pregnant, I mean, like visually pregnant. We went out to up to Beatty, and Mark and friends were riding three wheelers and whatever, quads, whatever, dirt bikes. I don't recall, but your dad was on a bike and he went down in a ravine and they came back, but he didn't. And I'm like, where's Robert? I don't know. Where's Robert? Well, he's up there. Where's Robert? Nobody can answer me. Well, I had a Pathfinder. So I put my extremely obviously pregnant self in the driver's seat, which was fine, put it in four-wheel drive and rode up, drove up the mountain and got him. So I put him in the Pathfinder and he's like, man, my leg hurts. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take you. He's like, I think I hit my head. I said, okay, I got you. It's fine. And he goes, what happened? I said, you wrecked your bike. I got you. We're going to head back to town. I'm going to take you to the doctor. Mark didn't want him to go, but of course I was stubborn and didn't listen. So anyway, I took him. And as we're driving back from Beatty, which is not a short distance, it's hours, 2 hours, maybe more. I don't know. Anyway, we're driving back and he asked, what happened? My leg hurts. I'm like, you wrecked your bike and your leg hurts and I'm taking you to the doctor. He goes, man, my leg hurts. What happened? I was like, oh, this isn't good. Oh, yeah, we're definitely going. And so obviously, he had a concussion. I mean, I learned a lot in a short amount of time. So he looks at me and he goes, you're pregnant? I go, yeah. Do you know who the dad is? And he goes, do I know him? I said, yeah, you do. Anyway, I didn't drop the bomb on him at that moment because you know what? His head was spinning and he could not collect himself. And it was every 15 minutes the same question, right? So we get into town, we go to UMC, hospital, trauma, whatever. We get him checked out. He has a concussion. He didn't break anything except his pride, and he racked his noggin really good. So we took him home. They said, don't let him sleep for more than an hour at a time. So here we are in the hood. I'm fully pregnant. We have all these little cats at the house, cat house. Like we had way too many cats. We were the cat people. It was weird now looking back. That was weird. But we were kind of poor. So your dad and I would count pennies to buy cat food. So we were just living a hot mess, young little survival life. It was crazy. When I got him home from the hospital, I was there for the next day, I believe. But then the next day, I had to go to work. So I wrote on a pad of paper, you've been in an accident. Your leg hurts. You hit your head. You have a concussion. So if you need something, call this phone number. So he could call me. Little did I know that was going to start our journey of life because I went through that a couple of times in our lifetime together.
So when that happened, you and dad were how old when that concussion
20,
happened?
20, barely
20,
20.
20. And you
Yes,
had Jay at
21.
20, 21.
21.
Okay. Okay.
So I was 20 when that happened. And then I turned 21 a few months after that accident. And then I had Jason actually 25 days later after I turned 21. So my 21st birthday, my sister took me and some people out to a Mexican restaurant, and I couldn't drink because I had Jason in my belly. I was like, look at me all old and 21. It was crazy. So that's when our life really started, was when I had him, because I realized that I didn't really feel safe in that environment anymore because of the drug dealing. And now it was just a loft. You go upstairs, there was a loft. That's where our bed was. And then just a bathroom and a closet. So it was kind of like an A frame, almost cabin feel, but it was an apartment. We moved out from there and moved over kind of more central middle of town to another set of apartments. And that was a rocky road because things happen. And I'm sorry your dad's not here to defend himself, to give his side. And at the same time, I think I will be able to be fair. So when we moved into those next set of apartments, just trying to be in a safer environment, things got a little weird because I was home with Jason. Um, I remember, I'm sorry. I was in the hospital having Jason, and your dad and Cindy went and packed the apartment and moved us to the new apartment while I was in there. That's how that came about. So then I get home to our new apartment together, and things were going okay. I mean, this is a good one. Okay. It's interesting looking back at our time together because it was obviously rocky from the very beginning, but I felt like I could fix it and I could make a difference for him. And again, if I loved him enough, that it would make everything okay. So I we were there in the apartment, and he would come home from work and he would want dinner made and stuff. I'm like, fine, no problem. But then it got to where he wasn't coming home at the same time. And, cell phones were not really hugely popular then, etc. So that was tough. So I kind of would have it going or get it started right when he came in. And he started getting visibly irritable with that because I wasn't getting stuff done in the way in the timing he wanted me to. So, for example, I had a C-section, so your guts are cut wide open, and it took me a little minute to get my body healed and care for this baby and keep the house clean and make dinners and whatever and get up in the middle of the night and whatever. And he did help me with all of that. I mean, I couldn't sleep with Jason in the same room because I couldn't sleep. And so he actually would get up and go feed him or get him and bring him to me, whatever. He was very good with that. Um, but I remember one day he came home and there was literally a tissue in the trash can in our bathroom. And he was mad. He was not happy about that. He's like, "What are you doing all day?" Long story short, within a short amount of time, it actually was right before his birthday, and Jason was small. So let's see, Jason, he was 9 months old. Yeah, so that was 90. So 91, February 91, I'm in that bedroom and he starts packing his stuff. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm out." I said, "Why?" And he goes, "'Cause you're not doing what you need to do." I'm like, "What?" So he packed his stuff, locked me out of the bank account, and I was there with an infant. And some people probably just hit the hills running, but I was a fighter. I'm like, "Nope, not gonna work, dude. You made a commitment. No." I guess I didn't even mention when we got married. Isn't that funny? My gosh, that is hilarious. Not really, it's quite sad. Yeah, so actually 1990, March of 1990, we got married. I was 20. We had Jason when I was 21. Wow, that's wild that I skipped that whole thing. That's a little realization right there. Man, there's been some history. Wow. Wow, that I'm gonna have to think about long after this session. Anyway, so he left. And then somehow, I don't even recall how, it's interesting over time how have gotten really, really good at blocking stuff out. So he came back. I don't know why. And we argued a lot. And I'm like, "No, we need to make this work because you leaving is not an option and it wouldn't be great for you anyway. So let's make it work," because I came from divorced parents and I didn't want just Jason at the time. to have to grow up like that. And I wasn't going to live like that because I watched how my life went. And my mom did the best she could. Oh, wow, that's wild. I have some really hard thinking to do about some of this stuff. Um, anyway, so right after that, I stayed home for 9 months with Jason. So I got a job and I never quit. I've been working since I was 15, going on 16. I took 9 months off when Jason was born um, because we were young and felt like that's what we could do at the moment. I'm saying a lot because it's really, this is a lot to process. So, anyone who's listening, I apologize for the ums. And that's the last time I'm apologizing because Haley said to tell me to stop doing that, saying sorry. Okay, so I started working and then things felt like they were picking up. Like I was going to work, I was taking Jason to daycare, living this new normal life that most people do. So we decided to that we had to move again because little did we know at first, but downstairs across the little sidewalk from where we were living in that apartment with Jason and your grandma and Cindy and Lauren moved in the apartments right below us, literally in the unit below us. But it cat just straight across from their unit, a kid was dealing drugs out of his window. And we heard shots fired one night. Well, that kid got shot, and your dad actually helped him. He got shot in his arm. Luckily, he was okay, but he did get shot in his arm. And after that is when your dad decided to become a fireman because we moved into these new apartments out in the newer part of town, um, out by, anyway, a little ways away. So that was nice. And then I said, hey, I talked to my mom. I talked to your dad, but I talked to my mom and she said there's an ad in the paper for firefighter in Henderson. I said, I know a lot of people out there. You could go talk to them. And I'm laying on the couch. By this point, I was 20, probably 22 and a half, actually just recovering from a surgery. And we were chatting. I had a surgery this time. We were chatting and he goes, well, there's also an ad in the paper for animal control. He goes, which one do you think I should do? I'm like, firemen probably. We have a lot of days off. They do a lot of fun things. I think you would be good at it. He's like, yeah, because I don't want to do anything that involves like animal road pizza. Ooh, gross, but okay. You're right. You're right. So he applied. And when I was pregnant with Jason, I had met this girl and she was tied into the fire department. So she really helped your dad. And my timing's slightly off, but a lot happened in just those 2.5 years between moving a couple times, having a baby, getting married, starting this new life. So I was working at an insurance company and I was there for actually 7 years. 22, start living this new life. Your dad got on the fire department. I was super proud. We started having so much fun doing things, going to like little parties involving the kids. And that didn't let up for years, which, man, time of my life. So fun. Then we moved to Henderson because we wanted to be closer to your dad's work. And we were just renting a house. And then it wasn't too bad for where my work was because really I could get anywhere quickly in town at the time, it felt like. So all of a sudden, I'm hanging out with some of the girls, some of the firewives, and we're like, we should all hang out. We were having so much fun. And it ended up that four of us who were really tight got pregnant at the same time. It was so fun. I was the last one to get pregnant, but it was so fun. So that
That
was
was the pregnancy pact.
the
All of the
unofficial.
girls that were born at that time were like, our moms trapped our dads, and it was a pregnancy
No,
pact.
dad and I had so many conversations. I'm like, Jason's getting older and I don't want them to be too far apart. I don't think it will be good for them. I said, I'm worried if it's either now or not. I'm worried about the length of time in between. Then I found out I was having a girl. And I'm like, what do I do with a girl? You would think the mom would be like, yeah, girl. But I was scared. I'm like, I had nieces, but man, I rocked this whole boy thing because I had one nephew at the time. I was actually so darn excited. So we decided to buy a house. So we move in with Grandma Sue. And our house was not going to be ready till after you were born. So we moved in with Grandma Sue. We all shared one bedroom, your brother, your dad, and I. And then we put a crib in there for you. We lived there for a while to save money. And then I I needed you to hurry up and come out because our house was going to be ready and I needed to be able to move. And I was scared that you were going to be equally as large as your brother. So we had a big white step-side truck. So I would wash the truck, I would vacuum, I would do everything to try to get you out. Our house was not quite ready, and they decided to induce me so you could come out sooner, which was a gift. So the day that you were born, I don't know if you remember this story. The day that you were born, your dad and I decided to go and look at the house where I'm at now, actually. So fun. I love this. And there were no houses up behind us. We actually got to our house driving up behind us. So where our neighbors are now, we drove in their lot to get to us because there was all dirt. And I was walking and I kind of took a little tumble on my stomach side. So thank goodness you were okay. And I literally was on my way to the hospital to have you. And I got there and they induced, and hours later, here you come. So our world was forever changed in the best ways. Oh, thank goodness for you, especially now, because man, you're freaking awesome. And that wasn't a deflection. From there, your dad and I, we moved into the house when you were almost a month old. We got the keys like 3.5 weeks later after you were born. Then we moved into the house, and that's when it really felt like our lives truly began because we had our own home. It was ours. We had you guys. We were building this awesome little family unit. A lot of little trials here and there, of course. But I'll tell you, your dad worked his butt off. And one thing I should say that I don't think we've talked about much because things got to be so different over the years. In the beginning, when I moved in with your dad and he was doing construction prior to the fire department, he was always hustling to make money, which I thought, man, this guy's awesome. He works his butt off, right? So when he was doing side jobs and stuff, I would actually go help him. So one house we did in the backyard, we put down all these brick pavers and we wheelbarrowed them from the front yard to the backyard. And I helped your dad put them in. Another job we did was this house. It was big, and we had all these. They're Mexican tiles. They're like the rust colored, terracotta colored ones. They're big. We did this whole house in that. So I helped your dad a lot. And Jason would have to go the babysitter, or when that changed, and he would have to go the babysitter after we had him. But he and I really worked so good together. And that lasted for probably 2 decades. We did a lot together. We did everything in our house together, remodeling, building the shop, and I would do my darndest to keep up with him, all while taking care of you guys and working the whole time because I stayed working because we had the house and debt and we wanted to have fun. And one day your dad said, hey, do you want to move into a bigger house? Or would you like a boat or a pool? I'm like, no, on the bigger house, because no. More to clean? No. And probably a pool would be awesome. So, as you know, we've had countless pool parties, birthday parties, nieces' birthday parties here. We have just had an awesome young life together. The fire department was hard. Things started shifting probably around, it was probably about 30s. He had a pretty tough call. There was a girl that got hit by a car. She was on her bike. And if you're not familiar with the paramedic EMS protocol, when a person's down, you hold their head still. And as he's holding her head still, because she's on the ground, he's like, "What's her name? What's her name?" He got the name. He looked up and saw the son of a coworker, and he was holding the granddaughter of that incredibly awesome coworker. Well, she ended up passing, and it sent him into a spiral, and he was in bed for 3 days. I reached out to the fire department and asked the battalion chief, who happened to be a friend, I thought he was a friend, if he would come over and just be with him because he was really struggling. And he said, "Nope, there's not much we can do." And I said, "Okay, great, thanks." So that really started the change and the shift in your dad and his job. There were other calls. There was a 19-year-old kid who wanted to jump off a parking garage, among countless calls that I won't even talk about because they're equally as bad in different ways. But I think things started to really shift then. So I feel like I've said an awful lot, but yet not nearly enough, because how do you summarize your first love, high school sweetheart, and your journey together? How do you do that justice when you already know the ending of the book? It's almost like I pick up this book and it looks like I want to read it. I'm like, can't wait to read it. The cover looks good. It's something new, it's something fresh. And I'm in a deep dive into this book and fully invested. And all of a sudden, I have to read the last chapter, and that's it. So I feel like that kind of summarizes what I've talked about tonight, because there's so much to cover in such a small period of time. So it's hard to do it justice. So I hope I've given enough or some sort of explanation to our story, how it began. There's so many details that I just don't recall because there's been so much that has happened in the last, well, since 2005. So much has happened, and it really has removed some brain space, if you will, because it's tough to recall when there's trauma and hard stuff in life. So, like my marriage, I didn't even include my stinking marriage in that. And I was so excited to get married. Oh my gosh, I couldn't wait for that. And my mom, your grandma, made me the most beautiful wedding dress, and
And your cake
family.
was huge.
Oh, I only cared about the cake
I
and the
remember seeing
dress.
pictures of your cake and I was like, "Holy shiz, that cake is massive."
Oh man, Cindy found the best cake maker, best cake I've ever had in my life. Even a year later, when we ate the top together, it was incredible. So, I hope I really just gave some snippets, and it was honest and real. And there really was so much good. And I was so proud and so excited and loved this life that we were living together as boyfriend, girlfriend, newly married, new parents, moving our way out from living in the hood, if you will, to getting our own space, having you, and that's kind of where we're at in our story.
I think that and what's nice about this is it really is just a summary of the beginning. It doesn't mean later on that you're not going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to include this. Like, let's talk about this." And it won't be added in the future. It's nice to kind of just have the quick little backstory so that people know what became before me. And also me too, just having the information because I wasn't there. I didn't get to be a part of it. It's hard to ask questions about something that I can't comprehend with my single, non children, never been married self. It's hard. I've also never lived in the hood, so I can't really relate to that. But
Nope.
I mean, there's definitely some stuff that you mentioned that I would love to talk about in the next part of this part. I don't know. This will probably be like 1,500 parts at this point, but
Oh,
um
to be.
you mentioned quite a few things. Like one thing that I found super interesting that you said was he went on a call about a 19-year-old. Did you say that he did or did not commit suicide?
He did not, but he was tore up after that call.
Well, and that like sparked something because the day that dad passed, I found out that when dad was 19, he wanted to do something to end his life. So that kind of caught me. And I was like, okay, we're going to have to touch on this because that's interesting. Because when he was on the fire department, he was how old when that
Oh my
happened?
goodness, do the math. Okay, so I was 21 when I had Jason, so he was 22. So he got on at 22, 23.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Is he was pretty young when that happened, which if you think about it, 19 to 22 to 23, like 3 or 4 years after having a similar thought process,
Mhm.
that had to have been difficult.
Yeah, he was probably 27 by the time that call came around, but, that there were many, and yes, that will
Totally.
be a great topic to cover because there was somebody there that night. He was at Hoover Dam, actually.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, which I didn't know my whole life until what, 3 years ago? So,
Yeah,
that's super interesting. I know with topics coming up in timeline, we'll be able to touch on Tony a tiny bit more. Mark comes into play, which is really nice. Everybody will get to kind of hear about them. Hama,
he was
Hama will come into play more. So there really is a lot still to come, but
and yeah, a lot. We've handled a lot together, hey.
it's honestly sad, but great that we've had each other.
Truth. Honestly, my favorite word to describe our situations is rude. It
It's
is
so
so rude.
rude.
It makes me because I'm sitting at a little bit of a desk, it makes me wanna just flip the desk, honestly, because it's a lot. We didn't sign up for this.
That's
I
honestly my
didn't.
favorite saying. I'll be playing games at work and I'll be like, I'm going to flip this table. If I could flip my console after this call, I would. But they weigh like freaking 1,000 pounds and I can't flip them. But I would if I could.
One of my guys at work came in and he goes, "You alright, Ange?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm alright." He goes, "Do you need me to help you flip your desk?" I'm like, "Yes."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
He's awesome, and he said it with a complete smile. I loved it. I'm like, "Yes, even more so now, thank you." Yeah, flipping the desk because some of the stuff we've been through is rude.
One of my coworkers, so his apartment complex is very close to mine. It's like his apartment complex, an open, like paved parking area, and then my apartment complex. All the time, people will take their cars to that paved area and do donuts. And I think it's amazing. I sit on my balcony with Lux and I'm like, yeah. And somebody called my work the other day and was like, there's people doing donuts in this area. Mwah. And I like messaged everybody and I was like, I love sitting on my balcony and cheering them on because I so badly want to do that and I can't because I'm like not brave enough. Well, then they messaged me back and they're like, "Oh, well, this coworker who lives right here called on them the other day for doing it, and I was like, "What a party pooper."
Rude. That's
I
rude.
was like I was like, "That is so rude, I love watching them." And he was like, "Well, to be fair, they were on the top of the parking garage."
Oh,
Um,
that's
and I was like, "Oh, I couldn't see him anyway, so I guess that was fine."
oh my gosh. We're people are crazy. We're
We got
crazy.
good coworkers.
I see that. I love my coworkers because 'cause they're funny. Because one of them walked out the other day, totally off topic, by the way. He's one of my new guys, and he was so funny. He goes, "I'm gonna lock this door right here because I don't want anybody to take you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're so sweet." He's just young and protective, and it's cute. It's very sweet.
Today, we were talking to the same coworker, me and my work wife, I call her, because one day she'll just divorce her husband and then we'll get married and it'll be perfect. But we were
Or
talking to my guy coworker, and she goes, "You look so, like, sharp today." But she's like, "I don't know how to tell you that without being creepy." And I was like, "I'll tell you. You look hot. You look good today." And he goes, "You 2 are the only ones that it's acceptable that you can be creepy to me." And I was like, "I'll be all the creepy because I love you and I think you're amazing." It's the
I
one
think
you met.
I love that. I think I know who you're talking about, and that's even better for me to get that visual. This,
Yeah, because
the
he's
same
not
guy who
super
said he
talkative.
yeah, so cute. That's cute. The same guy that said he didn't want me to get taken or whatever, he was so funny. The other day, he goes, "Hey, you're a mom. Does this shirt look okay tucked in?" I'm like, "Well, I wanted to tell you you looked cute or sharp, but I didn't wanna be the creepy boss."
Mm,
He
mhm.
started laughing. I'm like, "So, yes, you look super sharp."
Oh my gosh, I love that. That would have fit hand in hand in what happened today then.
Sounds like it. It's funny how we always run this parallel life, and we're many years apart, and it's just interesting how it always we always come back.
Always. New
Yeah.
jobs, different, like, struggles in life, like, it's so and we've always been like that for as long as I can remember.
It's like sometimes it feels eerie. Like, why how is this happening? Like a parallel life.
Like, when you left the convention industry, I left a month later. Like, we just were very in tune on that.
Yeah, we went in about the same time, we left about the same time, and not even on purpose. You left because of COVID.
Well, and I just mean the first convention job to my second one,
Uh-huh.
'cause
Yeah, true. Yeah.
you went from
Yep.
that job to the one you have now.
Like how I knew what you were thinking?
I'm
I'm
like,
like, "Yep, that"
I don't wanna say names because this is not a paid promotion, but they're not
No, but
sponsoring this podcast.
maybe they should. We should make a call.
"Hi, excuse me, I mentioned you on my podcast, and I have almost 500 downloads. You need to sponsor me, please. Thank you."
Like, right away. "No problem, Haley.
Be like,
I
"Oh my
got you."
gosh, 500 downloads? You're famous." "How many
No, this
episodes is that for?" "7." "Oh, well, I can only offer you 10%." "Okay,
a
whatever.
bag of candy.
We can give you some
That's
carpet
funny.
tape for free."
Double-sided.
That I could stick myself to the side of a spaceship and go up into space with that tape. It's wild.
Oh my gosh, we are loopy.
This is what happens when we get together, though. I do love that we can talk about hard things, and then it
Mm.
always ends up like this. We're, like, sad, depressing, awful, and then it's like, I'm gonna tape myself to a rocket ship because this company is gonna sponsor my podcast. It's just how we roll.
You'll be a free man in space. Wink, wink.
Now they
That
owe
was
me
pretty
20%.
on 5. view, listens, whatever. That's so funny. I'm just not even in the
Yeah.
lingo. That's hilarious.
I don't even know what downloads mean, but I am excited that I'm almost hitting another goal. So,
Good job. Maybe if I would stop being so all over the place, we could rock these out and get a bunch posted for you.
oh my gosh, you and me both. It's so hard. Like I said in my last episode, I seriously feel like we record or I record, I edit and I upload it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I have 2 weeks. I'm gonna rock it out. I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna do another 5." And then I'm like, "Wait, it's 2 nights before and I need to get something up." Like, I know what I wanna do. It's just I feel like I don't have the time to do it even though I have time, but I don't because it's not like this type of conversation where I'm just hopefully finding sponsors for a podcast. It's real life, heavy stuff that I've been through, that we've been through, and
I
just
think
how surviving outside of that.
it's, gosh, man, it is so true. I think it would be kind of fun if people were to either send you a message like on your social media and ask questions, or what would be, and we could answer together. What would be super fun is just have one episode of us just being us. Like, keep it light, keep it real, keep it funny.
Honestly, I feel like if we did that, we'd go viral because we're hilarious. And I'm not just saying that because you're my mom, but we're we're dumb and I'm here for it.
My gosh, I know. It's pretty funny. When we get going, things come out that really shouldn't come out, and then it makes it even funnier. And I know you've already said this in a previous episode, but when we were watching the cooking channel and they were making salmon, and our dog's name was Samson, and I called him and I'm like, Salmon! And that's how our life is. It's always just funny like that.
It really there's so much good. For how much sad, there's so much good. And I know I'll preface this before this episode because I like to go back and write intros so I can be fancy, but really to talk about the loss of dad, to talk about the loss of Jay, to talk about the loss of um people and how it has affected our lives since, a lot of it is the negative, right? Like talking about specific things are negative because that is what made the impact on our life. It's not that dad and Jason making the choice itself was necessarily the negative part. It's everything that led up to that and how it's altering our future and how it altered our brain on how to survive life.
Yeah,
And I know that this isn't a video, so you can't see, but I air quoted survive because really we lived in survival mode for years and years and years and years and still currently are. And
yeah,
unlearning habits based on the negative things. But there was so much good, so much good. And it doesn't outweigh the bad, but it definitely in the moment made it easier. And I was more appreciative of the good times because, yes, there's bad, but so much of the good has stuck with me. And I've said that from day one, after dad, especially, that so many
yeah,
good things have happened and so many things have fallen into place. And it really is
yeah,
just so interesting. But listen up, people. There is good, okay? I'm not bashing anyone. There's just
right.
things that have happened that have impacted me deeply, and they are negative. But there are good things that have happened that impact me just as deeply or just as deep. I don't know, grammar. And those are important too, and they will come eventually.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot. I think often people are too afraid to be vulnerable. And honestly, again, we've touched on things before, but people are afraid to hear the truth. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but I'll tell you, there's some definite unicorn moments in life, with your brother, with your dad, with everyone who has gone before. There's people that have gone that I was just crushed. But there's people who have gone that I knew I had every ounce of good and love from that person that I could have even gotten. I don't know how there's even be room for any more from them. So it's all in kind of our attitudes. I try to maintain a good attitude and more importantly, a healthy perspective on my future time on earth. I try to focus on that as well. So there's a lot to come, a lot. I think we should have some fun here shortly, just being us.
Yeah, listen, my last episode, I was hell bent on it ending positive and being happy. And where I was in that moment was just not that. And that's okay. It was what it was, and it was what and it was what it was supposed to be.
I love
So
that
I
you
think,
were in that moment and
huh?
went with it. I'm glad that you were honest with it.
It just it it's what it was supposed to be, and it helps segue into and helps provide an understanding of headspace and you know what I mean? Like, any little bits of information are important for the future. And two, what people have to understand is not only are we currently living life in the present and just trying to make it through the present. We're in the present in life with these obnoxious interest rates on everything. Come on, people. And also
Absolutely.
trying to heal from our past. And it's not like we're only healing from dad. It's not like we're only healing from grandparents or parents. We're still healing from, well, me. I'll talk for me. I'm still healing from things from my childhood. I'm also still healing from Jay. I'm also still trying to heal from myself when I talk crap and fight myself every day over things that I shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just present living. We're still healing and grieving and trying to move forward while also handling the current crazy, if that makes sense. Like everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's life and we all have stuff. It just sometimes looks different. Ours is hard for us, but there's people who have other things that are equally or harder for them to process. So it's we all have a life. It's crazy. It's rude. It can be
It's so
rude.
rude. It's so rude.
But I do love having fun because it makes those moments less rude.
Well, and life is already so heavy. Life
Can be.
needs to get on a diet, I'm telling you, like
Yeah.
me. It needs
I
to
wish you
chill.
could see me. I'm flipping off some of those life moments right now
So
because they're
sometimes we
rude.
just need a little crazy, okay? We just need a little crazy, happy, fun endings to an episode. You know what I mean? It's not just rainbows and butterflies, it's hummingbirds and dragonflies.
Sometimes
It's
a
everything.
wasp.
A hornet.
Yeah, I went there. Uh,
Sometimes a little, what are those silverfish? What are those bugs called? I freaking hate them. You know what I'm talking about?
yes,
Earwigs.
the little.
What are they?
Are you talking? Are you talking about our desert insects or
The
something
little
where you're
creepy
at?
crawlies that we got in our house, and they would freak me out. The pincher bugs, what were they?
Oh, yeah, those pinchers. I don't even know where they came from. But they have them in your current
Hell,
state as well.
that's where they came from. The devil sent them.
They do pinch hard.
They got on an
That's funny.
elevator. Can't climb stairs very well, so he sent them straight up.
They use their pinchers to press the buttons.
Some of those suckers
That's
were
some funny
long.
stuff. Hey, good stuff to come for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? We might have went on a tangent here at the end, but I think it's needed because this is probably the most accurate representation of our
Us.
1, relationship, 2, our life. I
Yeah.
just it is what it is, okay?
Yep. It's the, this is not quite the blooper reel, but this is the upside or maybe sick humor at times of the reality of our lives that go on behind the scenes.
If only you knew the jokes that I have made recently that make my life so much better. You all would be horrified, but I think they're hilarious.
I know. I wish there were certain things I could talk about that wouldn't jeopardize anybody's job. Because there's some funny stuff. But really quick, can I go back to the insects? Do you mind if we go back to the
You wanna
wasps?
talk about
Bees,
sex,
the
insects?
bee yes, I do actually. So that's really funny because it quickly thank you for helping me recall a story because with my trauma brain, it's very hard sometimes to recall details from the past. And yeah, I'm working on it, whatever. Get lots of rest, see a therapist. Blah. Yeah, it works so good. It actually helps a lot. But it just reminded me of a quick story, not so quick, where, yeah, we were drinking, your dad and I, and your dad was a little bit extra tipsy. And somehow he wanted to talk about the bee, and the bird.
He
Do you want to talk
gone.
about
He gone.
and that's what it
That be gone.
was talking about the birds and the bees, and he made it all
Oh my
extra
god.
theatrical because
And he's
he had
like,
been drinking.
the bee comes and lands on the flower and blah blah blah. And then the bee gone. The bee gone. He's gone. That bee gone. That was the most amazing thing ever.
That's your sex ed for the month.
That was probably one of my
Don't
most
let
favorite things
your
ever.
flower be landed on by a bee.
He was so serious too. He was, like,
Yeah,
invested, and it was, like, in depth, and it was, like, he will come and he will land, and then he's gone, and I'm like, "Okay, Robert, I didn't whoa."
you you wanted him to stop so bad.
It was
We're not in
probably
the
the
kitchen,
best memory ever.
right? Weren't we on the tile, like, on the other side of the island?
He was
Like, in
on
the
the backside of the island. You were
yes,
standing by the wine cabinet cooler,
yes,
and I was, like, by the trash can, and he was holding Leo.
you're right. You're
And he was
right.
in, like, a striped shirt, a white
Always.
and blue striped shirt, and red shorts,
Yes, always.
and he was holding
His
Leo,
favorite outfit.
and he was trying not to smile, this mother effer. Oh, it was so good.
Bee. Oh,
He's
man,
like, "The
that
bee
was aw
gone, he's gone, and the bee's gone."
I wish I would've recorded that one.
We have a recording. The end of
Of the
it.
bee?
Yeah, the
Oh, that's
end. That's why I
where is
know what
it?
he's wearing. I gotta find it.
It's on video. Got it. Alright.
Mm.
Okay, well, it's getting late and everybody's probably tired of listening to us. Thank you so much for having me again to talk some things out. I know there will be more for the future. Maybe we'll spend more time together. Maybe we won't have lots of episodes of us. Depends on what everybody wants. If you get 2 downloads, we know it was rude of them not to share.
They're gonna be like, "We're gone. We're that bee. We're outie. Bye."
We're gone. Bye.
Like, "We're sick of this flower. Bye." Be like, "Okay, bee. Bye." B for bye. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I know that there's a lot to come, and I am forever grateful to have you here because it's hard for you, and it's hard for me, and it's hard for us, and there's a lot of stuff that makes us super vulnerable, but also it's important for people to hear because our hard is not somebody else's hard, and somebody else's hard is not our version of something that is hard. How
Yeah.
many times am I gonna say hard? But the thing is,
It's
there are some people, Angela, shut it down, that could have a similar type of difficulty with things, and it's the same level, you know? We're on the same
yeah.
level. The same level that
Yes.
Satan sent those freaking pincher bugs from, right to Level, Nevada. Sick of it. Sick of
In the
it.
hallway. Always in the hallway. I don't get it.
Why in the hallway?
Anyway, because they came from the garage. They came from the outside.
No, he put them. He placed them. Specific tile crossings.
Satan can't come in this house. Mm-mm.
That's right. Cause we saged it.
That's right. I gotta go get some holy water and my sage. I don't want no pinchers.
Open the windows. Cast them all out.
All right, I will. Mm. All right, you're the best. Love you. Thank you for having me. I hope everybody enjoyed my roller coaster tonight. I did good. I didn't really have to deflect too many times. That was impressive.
You only complimented me once, and it wasn't even a deflection. It was just because you like me, and that was
Yeah,
acceptable.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Anywho, I appreciate you again, and I am excited for the future. Lots, 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 lots to come. And you know what? If we only get 2 downloads, we'll start recording them for us because I think we're hilarious. And sometimes we need to just end it with a good time because life hasn't always been a good time.
Yeah,
Mic drop.
it's true.
I would drop my mic, but it was a little expensive, so we're not gonna do that.
I love it. All right, you're awesome. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading.
Hashtag trauma brain. It's a real thing and it's allowed and it's okay, but we'll get our memory back eventually.
Look out, because it's gonna be fun then. Woo!
Love you all. I hope you have a great evening, day, time, shower, cup of coffee, sunrise, sunset, afternoon sunburn,
Glass of
um, work,
margarita,
lunch break, tequila.
car wreck. Shots,
Yes,
shots,
gym,
shots.
gym time. I
So good.
personally only know a male name Jim. So this other Jim that people talk about, don't know who he is.
He's
But
a real
the
get it?
tea kettles are a brewing. It's really time to go when that happens.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Love you, bye.